Another dynamic to which we need to pay more attention in the future, and
Yeah.
I've told myself this in the past, and I've never followed through the way that I've meant to, but it needs to happen.
Right.
People have been asking me, because I'll do radio. I love doing local radio because it really gives you an idea what people are talking about as it relates to the local team,
Right.
the trends, the questions. Why is the NFC East so good this year?
Yeah.
After being so bad.
Right.
Just 2 years ago, it was none of the above as the champion of the NFC East. It was an embarrassment, and it was that way for a couple of years. Well, this year, the schedule formula fell in a way that they play all the teams of the AFC South and all the teams of the NFC North.
That helps.
Those two divisions are not great top to bottom. This is not the NFC West that you're having to play, or the AFC East. Could you imagine if you had to play the teams of the AFC East and the teams of the NFC West this year?
Yeah.
So it's fallen perfectly for the NFC East. They got the weakest division in the AFC and the second weakest division in the NFC. They could have the NFC South. I guess that would be the only difference. But that's 8 games of your schedule. 8 games. You play 6 games in your division. You play 8 games against these 2 other divisions with this rotation that some years it's going to fall perfectly, where those 8 games are going to be easier, relatively speaking, than they otherwise would be. And as a result, you've got the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants fattening up their records, and you've got the Commanders at 500.
Yeah, no, it is. It's fascinating. It really is. Nobody. I mean, I wouldn't have seen this ever. You know, I mean, I picked the Eagles and the Cowboys to go to the playoffs, but didn't expect the Cowboys to be quite the caliber they are. So they've exceeded my expectations for sure. But I think, Mike, there's a few things that jump out to me. First off, I mean, we know Philly's just super talented, so we know what that is. The Giants and the Cowboys, the things that jump out to me a little bit with them is their management of the football game. You know, those are 2 teams that are not into analytics and being over aggressive. You know, they don't go for it on 4th every now and then. They just punt it out and go, we'll play defense. We'll run the ball here. You know, we'll just out-hit you and be creative on defense and wait for you to make a turnover. They play that way. The thing I think the NFC East has going for it a little bit is between the Eagles, the Cowboys, Washington, there's some really good defensive lines right there. And even with the Giants, they got some size at least on their defensive line to where there's never a team that they play where you're like, whoa, they're just going to get obliterated in the run game, and they got to do this, and now it's man-to-man on the outside, and oh, my gosh, they can't do that. So that's where it gives them a fighting chance, I think. And then, you know, I think it's, you know, with the Giants and Cowboys, they play a game of, like, you know, old-school football a little bit. We're going to run the ball, high-percentage passes, and play through the defense a little bit. So it's different, but I do think, you know, I look at their management of games a little bit instead of like teams like Cleveland that we've talked about where you go, they're 3-5, but they shouldn't be 3-5. If they manage games the right way, they'd probably be 5-3 or even better. You know, that's one thing that I think McCarthy and Dayball and even Ron Rivera have done a really good job of to make their teams win some games maybe they shouldn't have won.
But it also helps if half almost
no, your point's so real,
against,
without a doubt.
Yeah, and what we need to do at the end of every season, we need to map out, okay, this division, where do those 8 games come from? This division, where do the 8 games come from? Because that goes a long way toward figuring out where the wild card teams are going to come from. Somebody's winning the division, obviously.
Yeah.
But the 2nd, 3rd, and even technically 4th place team. Remember, we were musing about the possibility last year or the year before of all 4 teams from the NFC West getting in. Hell, all 4 teams from the NFC East could get in.
They could.
This year. And the difference is those 8 games where they can collectively fatten up against lesser foes.
Well, we saw it a little. I was just going to say, we saw it a little bit before the year, though. We did. We called it a little bit. You know, we didn't see it with maybe the Giants and Washington, but we did, like, look at the Eagles' schedule before the year and go, there's nobody on their roster, nobody on their schedule until week 10 where you looked at it and go, on paper, this team's better than the Eagles. I know we looked at it and said, like, man, there's a chance they could be 8-2, 9-1, 10-1. You know, it looked that way. So I think we were on it a little bit where how the schedule fell out. I just don't think we thought maybe the Giants and Cowboys would take advantage of it quite the way they did.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.